Hi everybody. We thought it would be helpful to sit down and create a short video that just takes you through the process of transition that we're about to go through as I transition out of being Montview's co-pastor. And it's a long process, but it's a very, it has a structure to it that we are grateful for from the presbytery. As Presbyterians, we do things decently and in order.
Right.
And so we know how this goes, and so we thought we'd lay that out for you because it can get a little confusing. So
yeah, it can be as clear as mud sometimes, but we're going to tell you what we know right now, and again, focusing on the co-pastor position. So let's start with the interim co-pastor position. We will begin a co-pastorate after Ian leaves for an interim time. That means that right now we have an interim co-pastor nominating committee that the nominating committee, the officer nominating committee, invited a few candidates for that search committee. The session approves that committee, which they did, that nominating committee, back in December, I believe. And they have begun their work. The 4 people on that search committee are Mary Jo Starmer, Ben Meyerhoff, Sylvia Cordy, and Lorraine Alcott. And 2 of those 4 folks are currently elders on the session. So that committee started their work, and that means that they developed a job description for the interim co-lead pastor, is what we're calling it. That job description was brought to the session on Tuesday night, just a couple days ago. The session read carefully and approved that job description. Now that job will be posted in publications like the Christian Century and the Presbyterian Outlook, and it will be circulated nationally through connections and networks and associations around an interim role. Here. And the great news about what's happening at Montview is that we're in a great place and we're in a healthy place. And so we're kind of inviting that interim person to come and have fun with us for,
right.
Could be,
because a lot of times churches, when they're in transition, maybe something not so great has happened to cause the transition.
There's been a conflict.
Or there's just conflict. That's,
and
obviously we have our stuff like any other community of faith, but it's a really healthy place, and so this interim's job or role is a little different than some of those traditional interim roles might be.
Absolutely.
Yeah, especially on a multi-staff church, especially with a co-pastorate where you've got a continuing
very particular
leader. This is unusual, so hopefully we'll find someone who really gets that and can come in and be a good team player.
And understand a large church, as you said, and a co-pastor model. It's kind of fun and unique. And so the average, as we understand, the average length of an interim pastor in this role can be 14 months, 18 months, up to 2 years. Usually not longer than 2 years.
That's right. The search committee, the nominating committee for the co-pastor, the permanent position, right? We'll start with session and probably the nominating committee, the same process. We'll start putting that team together, but they can't really begin their work until that interim is in place, right? That's one of the Presbyterian rules, that they'll begin their work in earnest so if I'm leaving in May 7th, that's maybe June 7th, July 7th, somewhere in there when the interim is here. And from that point on, that's why it feels like it takes a long time, because we all know this is happening, and why can't we just have someone get going? But there's some great things that come from this too, so from this time, right? Go ahead.
Let me interject. The difference between the interim position, it just occurred to me, and the permanent co-pastor nominating committee is the interim position is only approved by the session. The session is the approving body of that team. But the congregation will be the approving body of that search committee.
Okay, great. So there'll be a vote when that slate of the search committee comes forward.
Right.
So that'll be in the next few months. Right? And then, so it's all that's going on for, they're doing their discerning work kind of privately. They're kind of sequestered, doing their work prayerfully, beginning to look at resumes and interview candidates. It gives the congregation some time to have some distance from the former co-pastor, so that if you think about it, if you had someone ready to go the day after I left, there's still that energy of, well, Ian didn't do it that way, or I'm still a little fresh in the memory. A little time, a little distance is healthy. To grieve what needs to be grieved, to reflect on who are we now,
Yep.
right? All that will happen during that year and a half, 2 years, and it's good.
So here are some key points on the timeline. Right now, for the Interim CoPastor Nominating Committee, they are beginning their work. They have developed a job description. Then they will start circulating that job description for the interim position. We'll receive applicants, and hopefully in a couple of months after Ian leaves on May 7th, we will have an interim person in place. And after the interim co-pastor begins their work, we will start the process for calling the installed co-pastor. And that process usually takes about 18 months before that person is installed.
So that's the process. It can be a long one, we know, but there's a lot of wisdom in this process, so we'll trust it, and we'll take it step by step. Yeah, it's happening.
It makes me a little nervous.
I bet.
But it'll be good.
It'll be great.
Yeah. Keep us in your prayers. Keep all the search committees in your prayers. And just know that we'll be giving updates as the process goes along. So trust it.